Good morning. Oh, that shouldn't be looping. That's better. Turn that off. Good morning. Good morning, one and all. Hope you're all fit and well. How are you doing this fine day? I've got a couple of bits and pieces I want to get through before we actually start the show. So I was listening to a podcast on my trip back from Italy earlier this week. The podcast covered a much larger topic, but it mentioned the case of a woman who worked in an office with a security entrance. She was leaving work one evening and she noticed that the guy manning the security gate was looking at her in a slightly odd way. She thought nothing of it. But when she got to her car, she realised she'd forgotten her phone, so she went back in, only to find out that her security pass had been revoked. The company claimed there was a suspicion of theft. The woman, alternatively, claimed that she was actually being fired without prior warning, all of which set me thinking. We now live in an age where machines can be started using a keyless system and in which each operator can have their own key card to set the machine to their preferences. So looking at the negative, what if an unscrupulous boss decided to revoke your card for some real or imagined infraction? And then I thought about it a little bit further and a bit more positively. What if your card was preloaded with your qualifications and those qualifications allowed you to access only the functions upon which you had been properly trained? What if part of your card could be revoked while your training was updated or refreshed in the aftermath of an accident or near miss? What if you could unlock new functions by hitting certain goals? Reduced fuel consumption, daily checks being completed properly, the amount of material moved in a single shift or a single week? Is that a future we want? I've no idea where I'm going with this. Well, maybe we'll have a chat about it after the show. Just one final thing before we move on. And I have to say, although it doesn't impact me directly, I have to say this one upset me a little. Back in October last year, you might recall that we discussed the fact that the house builder Vistry had demanded a 10% discount from its supply chain. I think we all agreed that they had a bit of a nerve, expecting their suppliers and subcontractors to dig them out of a financial hole. Well, it now turns out there was no hole. Having gone begging bowl in hand to their suppliers and their subcontractors, now turns out Vistry has turned in a profit of 800 million quid. Yes. According to this, Vistry is hoping to generate £800 million in operating profit and return £1 billion to shareholders after asking subcontractors for a 10% discount on prices. The house building giant asked its supply chain for cost reductions last October. In a training update this morning, Vistry said it will benefit from lower year-on-year building materials costs in 2024, reflecting engagement with our supply chain throughout 2023. Our high level of visibility on forward sales and build program enables us to work closely with our subcontractors to secure beneficial terms. Should they have those beneficial terms is my question to you. I realise this sort of thing happens if a company is in trouble and they can go back to their supply chain and say, can you extend our credit terms? Can we come to some sort of agreement and everything else? But to do it while you're sat on an incoming profit of 800 million quid seems a bit rich to me. I'd love to get your thoughts on that. Now let's have a look. Well, I'm going to say a few good mornings. I'm going to say good morning to Dan Cullen, who was here at 10 o'clock. I wasn't. I was on the phone to the doctor, but I was here shortly after. So thank you very much indeed for keeping things rolling in my absence, Dan. Gary Muirhead says, good morning, Mark. Good morning, everybody. Happy Thursday, everyone. A short week for some of us. I can't possibly imagine who that was aimed at. Let's have a look. Mark Whiting says, good morning. Good morning to Mark Whiting. Good morning to Jim Turner as well. Peter McKenna, morning all. I can't get on Facebook, so this will have to do. It works for me. Gary Muirhead says, sounds like you've given the CITB food for thought on how they can make more money out of us. If that's the truth, I apologise. I apologise unreservedly. Peter McKenna says, that's business, isn't it? Is it? Easy. I mean, if you are a supplier to Vistry, even a regular supplier to Vistry, and you see that announcement this morning, having agreed to lop 10% off of your bottom line to increase their bottom line, you're seeing that announcement today that they are now expecting a nice big £800 million windfall. Are you not looking at thinking, you cheeky buggers? I know I would be. Jim Turner says they're just flexing their buying power because they can. Yeah, that's more like it as far as I'm concerned. Good morning, Chris Ford on time. Good Lord, is there a bloom and are there pigs flying overhead? Chris Ford is here on time. Good morning, Chris. Thank you very much indeed for being here. He not only is he here on time, he's given us a triple welcome. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Andy Dalvell doing exactly the same thing, although he's doing it without the good. He's just gone morning, morning, morning. Let's have a look. Ken Hatcher is in the house all the way from Welsh Wales. Good morning to you, Ken. And Peter says it happens lots in the transport business. It happens lots in every business. I'm well aware of how business functions. I'm just mindful of the fact that, you know, going out with a begging bowl saying, "Oh, we could do with a bit more money. Could you save us 10% because, you know, times is hard and stuff." And then what is it? October, November, December, January, February, May, March, April, May. 8 months later. Oh, look at the coffers now. Look at the coffers. 800 million quid. Thank you very much. It's a bit rich. Yeah, Rich. Gary Muirhead says, good morning, Mrs. Anthony. Have you recovered from your break? I don't know if recovered is the right word, but I did mention Bergamo this morning, and she just sighed like, oh, can we go back? Yeah. Yes, I'd like to as well, but we do have a show to produce. So, and Steve Williamson has just joined us morning. Good morning, Steve. Thank you very much indeed for being here. It's a nice turn of events that Steve Williamson and Gary Muirhead are both our most recent commenters, because we're going into the show in just a few moments to talk about a brand new tilt rotator. And we have some experts in our midst. So without further ado, let me roll the intro, post the question of the day, and get this show, when I find the right button, get this show on the road. Yes, we've had a question here. Let me get rid of that and let me take it out of the thing entirely. Get rid of that. And I can actually show you if I play my cards right. Andy Darvell has asked, was it Andy Darvell? I think it was. Andy Darvell has asked, when is Hillhead? And when is everyone going? As you can see on the screen there, it is from June the 25th to the 27th. So the Tuesday, the Wednesday, and the Thursday. I am planning to be there on the Tuesday and the Wednesday. As it stands at the moment, I won't be there on the Thursday, because I'm rather hoping to have got my stuff done and dusted by then. But yes, that's when I'll be there. So if anybody is planning to meet up, if you could do it on the Tuesday or the Wednesday, I'd be more than grateful for that. Let's have a look. Going back to our friends at Vistry, I'm going to take that away because that's a bit of a distraction. Yeah, Peter McKenna says, our government does a similar practice, don't they? Well, yes, they do. Two wrongs, though. Two wrongs do not a right make, in my opinion. Gary Muirhead, it feels like I've never been, it was beautiful there. Yes, it most certainly was. Chris Ford says, if we were able to cut their wages by 10%, do you think they'd like it? Methinks we're being shagged again. Yeah. Yeah, as I say, that was my feeling. You know, I think when I first saw that, my initial reaction was Vistry must be falling on hard times, and therefore, you know, if the industry as a whole is going to bail them out, then they're not a bad thing. But then to have that turn around and say, oh, look at, as loads of money, Harry Enfield used to say, look at my wad. That's what they've done. Crazy Edits. Peter McKenna says, I've got my ticket. All depends on health and availability, whether I go for a date. Hope you do. Ken Hatcher, I'm thinking about doing Thursday to the Hillhead. You'll probably miss me, unfortunately. But we did meet last time, so not the end of the world. Gary Muirhead says, unfortunately, due to family commitments, I will not be able to attend Hillhead. Sorry, guys. Gary, It's almost you see these films where the young romantic couple are destined to meet. I get the feeling that you and I are destined never to meet, but I'll sort it out. I have plans. Trust me, I do have plans. Now, should we start the show? Because it kind of feels like we should. It is Thursday, the 16th of April. Welcome to the Breakfast Show. I am your host, Mark Anthony, the Walrus of Demolition. In today's show, there is a new tilty in town, but I'd like to know whether you believe it to be hot or not. Could this excavator be the star of Hillhead 2024? I'll leave you to decide when I show it to you. We're heading back to Intermat 2024 to check out the show's biggest excavator, and we're gazing into our crystal ball for a glimpse of the future of mining. Plus, we're going to be walking and talking about buildings that are built to last and those that aren't. But before we get to all of that, I do have the small matter of today's mystery machine with which to befuddle you one and all. You're all doing very well on the mystery machine at the moment, so I'm hoping I can get this one by you. And let me show you what it is that you have to work with. There you are. You have a corner. It's not much. I do accept it's not much with which to identify the machine, but yes, that's what you've got to work with. Gary Muirhead has just said, maybe we should meet under the clock at Waterloo Station. Waterloo Station is much easier for me than it is for you, Gary. I'm game. I'm game if you are. It's a train. I promise you, it's not. It is Wouldn't it be good? Maybe I should do that on April Fool's Day. Throw in something that isn't even a construction machine. I may do that. I may note that down. But that's what you've got to work with. I'd love to hear your thoughts on what that might possibly be. While you're figuring that out, let me very quickly remind you of today's question of the day. Yeah, our question today comes once again from our resident quizmaster, Mr. Gary Muirhead. And his question is this: if you could instantly, and I do mean instantly, wave a magic wand, if you could instantly acquire a new skill, what would it be? Mine is very, very simple. I would love to be able to speak Italian. As much as I enjoyed my trip to Bergamo, I felt like a lazy Englishman, because all I can say is please, thank you, good morning and good evening, which is pretty poor show given that I was in their country. And I probably say all those things with a very distinct London accent as well. Failing mastering Italian, I'd still love to play guitar. Not looking to perform major rock solos here, just some tuneful strumming would suffice. Fred did try to teach me once for about 30 seconds. And he said, I'll teach you the easiest chord there is. Put your fingers here and strum there. And the sound that came out of the guitar was fadunk. No musician in the world wants to hear fadunk from their musical instrument. So there you are. Gary Muirhead's question is: if you could wave a magic wand and instantly acquire a new skill, what skill would you choose? That's what we'd like to hear. Let's have a look. We do have some guesses here on our mystery machine. Let me throw it up on the screen so you can see whether people are being sensible or otherwise. Let's have a look. Chris Ford says mystery machine Cat 30D dump truck. It is not. Gary Muirhead says Hyundai Robex 140. It is not one of those either. Is it a Cat pipe player? It is not. It is none of those things. Let me give you a smidgen more. There you are. At least you now know that whatever it is you're looking at, it's not on tracks. It is on wheels. Wheels, I tells you. If anybody's got any ideas on that, let us know in the chat. We'll come back to that in just a moment. But we do need to crack on, because I want to show you a new tilt rotator, and I want to get your views on it. So here we go. Yes, the chat today on the Mystery Machine. Andy Darvell says it's a shovel. Dan Cullen says a loading shovel. You know by now how this works. I need makes and models. Just to very quickly refresh your memory. That's what you're looking for. Tell you what, there's a smidgen more, which does prove your point, Andy and Dan, but it doesn't tell me the make and model, which is precisely what I'm looking for. Peter McKenna is going for a Liebherr 1500. It is not. Take that away and let me crack on. So, those fine folks, and they are fine folks, I've met them and they are smashing. And those fine folks at AMI Attachments in the States have unveiled a new tilt rotator together with a new video that explains its key features and benefits. Now, on the basis that we've got some genuine tilt rotator aficionados, experts in our midst, I'm not going to say any more. Instead, I will leave you all to decide, is this new tilt rotator hot or is it not?
The tilt rotator you've been waiting for has finally arrived. Smooth, powerful rotation. The widest tilting range in the industry. And now, a tilt rotator without cylinders. Introducing Axis by AMI Attachments. It's a whole new spin on tilt rotators. The Axis Tilt Rotator gives operators the most compact solution for ultimate work tool dexterity. Instead of tilting with cylinders, the Axis TR features a helical actuator, boasting 50-degree tilt in both directions, the best in the industry. This fully enclosed elliptical piston eliminates exposed cylinders that are constantly at risk of damage. No cylinders also means the Axis is incredibly compact, so you can dig narrower trenches with less soil disruption. With constant holding torque in any position, the helical actuator also ensures reliable strength to carry heavy loads at any angle. Encased in oil is an oversized worm gear, delivering precision rotation 360 degrees. Both rotation and tilt operate using proportional control, giving you as much or as little movement as you need. For enhanced multitasking, add on the available integrated gripper with bypass tines to pick and sort fine material as well as large objects. Operate the Axis TR using the intuitive Nox Prop Plus proportional control system. Featuring a large, bright, and adjustable touch display, each attachment has a unique profile and identifies the exact tilt angle and rotation position. Equipped with premium ergonomic joysticks from SVAB, Axis TR puts proportional control in the palm of your hands. For operators using GPS controls, the Nox Geo system is fully compatible with most GPS manufacturers. The Axis TR is designed for excavators from 4-ton to 25-ton, with 3 models available, and includes a 2-year limited warranty. Only need tilting function? Check out the Axis TC Tilt Coupler. Featuring up to 180-degree tilt range, the Axis TC is available for excavators up to 45-ton. The Axis Tilt Rotator and Axis Tilt Coupler by AMI Attachments. Contact AMI to configure the tilt rotator or tilt coupler that's best for you. Axis by AMI Attachments. It's a whole new spin on tilt rotators.
So, you've now seen it in action. What do you make of it? Is it hot or not? Or to put it another way, is this the axis of good or the axis of evil? Quite proud of that. Never mind. Now, I'm going to throw over straight away to Mr. Steve Williamson because he is the expert here. He says, it's a Nox Kinsoffer Axis. It's a Nox Kinsoffer. Axis have a deal to put their logo on it. He also says, hot. You can see me working with it. Also, Steve actually got to grips, quite literally, with the new SVAB controls. Joysticks over in Intermat. What did you make of those, Steve? Love to hear your thoughts on that. He also says, good Prop Plus system, but I put forward to them it doesn't need to be as big. Once you set up the settings, you never use the screen. Jim Turner is in favour. He says it's hot. Dan Cullen says it's hot too. Gary Muirhead showing his true brand loyalty. Not, he says, sorry, I have to stay brand loyal to my beloved steel wrist. I expected nothing else. Steve, on the other hand, says, never diss a tilt rotator brand because you never know. I operate steel wrist and there is no difference on operating the knots. Peter McKenna says, tilt rotators are great unless you suffer from arthritis. So you're actually retiring, folks, if it became the norm. Is that true? Is that true? Are they harder on the wrist? I'd like to get your feelings on that, particularly with modern controls. Love to hear your thoughts on that. Chris Ford is going for hot, even though he knows nothing about these things. Chris, you and I, we're in the same boat. I know nothing. Steve Williamson says, plus steel wrist work alongside Kinsoffer. They do. Open S Alliance and all of that kind of stuff. We've got a good interview with one of the main men at Steel Wrist coming up very soon. In fact, I think I heard Fred working on it last night. I'll be telling you more about that when it comes along. Not true, as you can operate from the pedals as well. So maybe the arthritis is not such a big deal, although bearing in mind Peter is missing a limb. Maybe that is still put a bit of a problem. No, Peter, no stress on your wrist, pal, says Gary Muirhead with a Glaswegian accent. I'm assuming it's a Glaswegian accent. I don't know, but we've all heard what he sounds like. Dan Cullen says tilt rotators probably worse for your finger joints. Is that true? All joking aside, I mean, I know we're asking the question and chewing the fat here. You people that actually do operate tilt rotators, or just regular machines, where do you get your stresses and your strains? Do you go home at night thinking wrists a bit tight? Are you kind of flexing your fingers because they're a bit tight? Is it all in the calves? Love to hear from you. Let us know. While you're thinking about what part of your body aches the most, I'm going to take that away because it is time to move on. And I'm going to be moving on with a bit of this. Yeah, we've already talked about Hillhead because no great surprise, it is now fast approaching. The quarry is ready, the tickets are going out, and the equipment manufacturers are making their final decisions on what they're planning to show off. Now, as far as I know, JCB hasn't actually announced precisely what it will have on display, but having recently released a new machine aimed squarely at the quarry sector, you'd have to think that the machine I'm about to show you will be there. Now, bear with me while I dredge this off my hard drive, because Fred apparently only makes huge files. Let's have a look. Where have I put that? Here we go. can see why the chat's just gone mad. My apologies. Yes, let's go back to the chat. Tilt rotators and stuff. If you're any good with a PlayStation controller, you'd be amazing on this. And no strain on your wrist, says Gary Muirhead. Dan Cullen says, same as on a phone. See a lot of people that can't straighten their fingers. I have to admit, I do get a bit of little finger pain from time to time because I tend to use my phone like that. I'm sure I'm not unique in that. Listen, I'm not taking time off work for it, but it is a bit of a jip. Never have issues with wrists or fingers, says Steve Williamson. Just back pain sitting so long and sore legs from sitting. Need to stretch more, just so busy. Yeah. Do you get out of the cab? You know, if you've got trucks waiting or you've got a deadline to hit, do you actually get the time to get out the cab, stretch your old bits and pieces and make yourself comfortable again? Good morning to Garvin over at Mostly Diggers. Just joined us over on Instagram. Jim Turner says, I don't think we can put progress on hold just because of people's ailments. The world mainly suits the majority. It's very true. Very true. And I realise we are trying to be more all-encompassing, but, you know, yeah, Gary Muirhead. This is an interesting point. I know I go home a lot less stressed or strained, but my tilt rotator makes my job easier and more enjoyable. Yeah, that's having spoken to a lot of people using tilt rotators. That whole thing of not having to constantly move the machine, you know, getting around like a manhole cover or something like that. In the past, you'd have had to reposition the machine because you'd only dig in one plane. Now you can dig literally 360, makes life a whole lot easier. Dan Cullen says, I'm on stand down now as a guy who's put a seal in lifting ram messed up. Now, got no lifting power. Well, you need that, don't you? Thanks, Gary. I realise. Let's have a look. More people telling me about the mic. Footy has just joined us. No sound at all. Can't hear a damn thing. Turn your microphone back on. I got there in the end. You're muted, Mark. I'm shit at lip reading. Would you like to try this? And I thought it was me, says Chris. No, it was definitely me. Footy says, I wish I could stay, guys. Have a great day. Be safe. Thank you very much indeed. People with arthritis struggle to use games controllers. I didn't know that, but then I didn't know that probably because I've never, ever given it any thought. Maybe because I don't have arthritis so far, which we'll see. Right, okay, let's crack on because I've got other stuff to show you immediately after a bit of this. If you were here yesterday, you may recall that we took a tour around a Romanian salt mine. Very impressive it was too. But what does the future hold for the mining sector? Well, this might give you an indication.
This little treasure is one of the most important things for the future of this planet. It's tellurium, which is absolutely essential for solar panels. We also need more cobalt for batteries, and gallium for semiconductors, and neodymium iron for wind turbines, and many more. That's why mining is necessary to help build a more sustainable world. But we need to mine responsibly, keep reducing water consumption, and make as little impact as possible on the surface. We are moving over to electric equipment with zero CO2 emissions. We are using automation to have the machines do the hard work underground, supervised and run by skilled people overground. This creates safer and healthier working conditions and makes mining more efficient with less environmental impact. That's why we have to attract the smartest young minds of tomorrow.
Mining is all about using the latest innovations to find the best possible ways to bring up stuff like this and use it wisely. The planet needs it, future generations deserve it. We're mining for the future.
God, I'd love a voice as deep as that. Anyway, I've been rather remiss. I'm going to throw this back up on the screen, and I'm going to give you a little bit more to work with. We obviously have our mystery machine today, and I've been completely ignoring all the entries that have come in. Gary Muirhead has suggested a Cat 854. No. Chris Ford, Doosan 400 DL. It is not. Cat loading shovel L1800 E. It is not that. It is not a JCB 423. It is not a JCB 418. In fact, I can tell you, it's not a JCB at all. Is it a Case 821G? It is not. Is it a Hydramec 640WL? It is not one of those either. Is it a Muirhill B5000? It is not. Is it a JCB 410? It is not. It's none of those things. Have we got any more recent comments or guesses on that? Is it a Komatsu WA380? It is not. Are you getting sponsored by Sandvik, Mark? No, but Sandvik, if you are watching, I'll happily send you my bank details. Not a problem at all. Peter also says, not seen Wolfwelder about for a while. The issue with Wolfwelder, obviously, is he's over in the States. And there are times when, I think when our clocks changed, it got closer to US time. And then when we changed back again, not so good. Let me just throw that up. There we are. That's what we're looking at. And Peter McKenna has now come up with a Kramer 312E. Fantastic machine, but it is not that. So let me take that away, and I'm going to give you a little bit more. That doesn't help at all, does it? I can tell you it's a machine from a little way back. They may still make them. I honestly don't know, but it's a machine from a little way back, if that is of any help whatsoever. Now, we do need to play a bit of this, because I've got something else to show you in a second.
Since the finance bill came into effect in April, the construction industry has seen a surge of fuel thefts. The rising cost of living has placed an additional risk of theft by employees and contractors, as well as opportunistic thieves. By using diesel dye and placing warnings of its use, you are sending a clear message that this is your fuel.
Jim Turner, demonstrating empathy to the nth degree, says, them arthritic people shouldn't go for jobs that don't suit them. Pretty simple, really. People can only do what they're capable of. It's horses for courses. I take your point, but what if you have been doing the same job for many, many years and you then develop a spot of arthritis? What happens then? Bearing in mind all the training that you've got and everything else. Mick Norton is in the house. Good morning, Mick. Thank you very much indeed for being here. Peter McKenna has suggested that our mystery machine could be a Terex 7231. It is not. However, and I can tell you he's not got the right answer, but Mr. Ford has got the closest yet. He has suggested it might be a Hanamag 22 or a 33C. You're close. You're very close, but it is none of those things. Let me just take it away for a second and see if I've got... Yes, I can give you a little bit more. Let me throw it back up on the screen. There you are. That's what you're looking at now. Can we make it all the way to the end of the show without somebody getting the right model? We shall see. So you may recall, if you were here yesterday, you may recall, let me take that away. You may recall yesterday, I was planning to film a walk and talk video while I was in Italy, and you will know that for various reasons, failed miserably. Well, with the sun shining yesterday and with the story still fresh in my head, I decided to go for a walk. And this is the result.
The second episode of our Walk and Talk series was supposed to be very, very different. Had an idea for filming it while I was away in Bergamo, but the gods did not smile upon us. On the day that I had originally planned to do it, which was a Sunday, it was actually Mother's Day in Bergamo, in Italy, which meant that everywhere that I was planning to film was absolutely rammed with people. Wasn't possible. Not a problem, I thought. I'll film it on the Monday instead. Monday rolls around, and it rained. Not a lot, but enough to make it impossible to film. So I've decided instead to film it here in the UK, and refer back to Bergamo and Italy. So the original idea while I was in Bergamo was I'm going to take a walk
to tell you a story, and the story was actually inspired, at least in part, by Bergamo itself. In fact, it was inspired by one very specific part of Bergamo. This is the Duomo di Bergamo. For the uninitiated, that's the Bergamo Cathedral. The cathedral was actually built in the 15th century. In the 6 centuries since it was built, the Duomo has been ransacked, partially demolished, invaded, extended, and partially rebuilt. But the cathedral has survived, and it survived for several very good reasons. Firstly, it was built from stone, torn from the ground in the local area. And it was built using timber from the local forests as well. And just as importantly, it was built by master craftsmen. Master craftsmen like stonemasons, carpenters that had learned their trade from other master craftsmen, who in turn had learned their trade from other master craftsmen. With relatively simple materials, those craftsmen created something beautiful, ornate, and permanent. Now, compare that to the buildings being erected in London, Manchester, Birmingham, Leeds, and other cities around the world today. Now, I know what you're thinking. Those buildings being erected in London and the other major cities around the UK, around the world, are not being built to last for centuries. In fact, up until fairly recently, some commercial buildings in London were expected to last not much more than 25, 30, maybe even 40 years. After that, we just accepted that they would be torn down, replaced by something more suitable or more appropriate for its surroundings or for the modern environment. However, thanks to concerns over embodied carbon and sustainability, the life of those buildings is now expected to be longer. We're looking for buildings to be refurbished instead of demolished, retrofitted instead of removed. I fully understand. Despite my love of all things demolition, I do fully appreciate the need to safeguard the environment and the planet. But here's the thing. While the Duomo di Bergamo was built using the very best materials available at the time, modern buildings are built to a budget. They're built using materials that have not been proven over millennia. Moreover, the Duomo was built by craftsmen, master craftsmen, with names like Donatello, Raffaello, Michelangelo. They'd been hand-picked because of their experience and their skill and their expertise. Modern buildings, meanwhile, are built by Wayne, Shane and Dwayne, who have never had their skills properly evaluated or tested, but have a little bit of plastic that suggests otherwise. And here's the thing. The real telltale here is the Duomo di Bergamo has stood for something like 600 years. Unless we were invaded by aliens, or there is a zombie apocalypse, the chances are it will stand for another 600 years. For all our good intentions, for all our modern materials, for all our modern forms of training and construction regulation, I'm not sure that anything being built in London today, or anywhere else in the UK for that matter, is going to be around for quite so long. What do you think? Are there any actual buildings being constructed today that you might expect to still be around in 100, 200 or 600 years' time? And it does make me wonder about this whole embodied carbon thing. Yes, we want to rebuild and renovate and all of the things. What if the core of the building wasn't up to scratch in the first place? We've all heard about buildings being built on being thrown together on a Friday afternoon. You mentioned the Italian cathedral was at one time partially demolished. Were the NFDC involved? No. It was the Venetians, apparently. It was the Venetians. I did my research. I know what I'm talking about. It was definitely pre-NFDC. But yes, it was partially demolished. When you look at the London skyline, obviously we've got buildings like the Shard and the Walkie Talkie and the Gherkin and the Cheese Grater and other buildings with ridiculous names. And as it stands today, right this second, they are iconic. And I know one of them, I think it may be the walkie-talkie, is about to be refurbed, all of which is fantastic. But even then, I mean, what is the walkie-talkie now? 25, 30 years old, if that, and it's being refurbished. Will it still be here in 100 years' time? I have my doubts. I really do have my doubts. And as I say, it throws into some debate, I reckon. Are we going to be retrofitting and refitting and refurbing buildings that will not actually be up to the job? None of today's buildings won't be standing in 100 years, says Dan Cullen. Gary Muirhead says, all I'm hearing these days is a housing crisis and shortage of affordable homes, and it all comes down to the planning office taking so long to pass the planning process. That and the fact that the house builders do have a nasty habit of sitting on great swathes of perfectly good land till the prices go up. Gary Muirhead, this is very true. Your neighbours must be saying to themselves, there goes that nutter talking to himself again. I will. You may have seen there was one bit in that where I actually walked past one of, they're not very close neighbour, but there's a neighbour just up the road who are having their drive repaved, and I was busily chatting to myself, looking at the screen and trying to remember what it was I was trying to say, and the guy that was doing the paving actually thought I was talking to him. So I had to take a few steps back. Sorry, pal, I wasn't talking to you. I was just talking to myself. We want to go back. I'll come back to the mystery machine in just a moment, but going back to all things arthritic. Steve Williamson says, I use wrist supports. A lot of people don't like them, but if set up correctly, it saves a lot in the long run. And I do wonder, I mean, you know, Steve is one of the younger members of the crew right about now. Not a bad thing, not a bad idea. I remember my dad got arthritis towards, well, just before he retired, if I'm being completely honest, and he was a chauffeur. And he used to wash the cars down, make sure they were all spick and span, cold water on his hands. And you could see his hands kind of clawing as we went along. I think if he'd have maybe worn gloves, if he'd have taken a bit more care, maybe. Marcus Agapai, VR Demolitor. I don't know what that means, but hey, good morning. Good morning. Buongiorno or something. Going back... Peter McKenna says, you don't get buildings like that nowadays. Shame those skills have disappeared. Yeah, and fun enough, we went to a pub not so long ago, and it was opposite a house that had a thatched roof. Where would you go? Where would you go to find a thatcher these days? Our friend Marcos over on Instagram, looks like he's in Brazil. I'm not entirely sure, but I think he's in Brazil. So, Buenos dias. Is that Spanish? Is that Portuguese? I don't know. Let's have a look. I know a company that's having to re-strengthen the building structure that Henry built. Henry has built floors sagging. Yeah, you do hear that quite a bit. In Preston, says Peter McKenna, we're short of affordable housing, yet there are overpriced new build houses still empty 2 years after they've been built. Profit over affordability, I think, which takes us full circle to our friends at Vistry, does it not? I cannot understand meaning of affordable housing. How is a £500,000 or £200,000 house affordable? I think that partly depends on your viewpoint on affordable, but also where you are in the country. If I could find a £200,000 house here, I'd be quite happy about it, because it's quite pricey where I am. Going back to Marcus, Bom dia nos todos. Thank you. I think that's Bom dia is probably closer to what I was aiming for, but Bom dia to you as well. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. Mick Norton says there is no reason why modern structures should survive for centuries. The only snag is we do not have the nucleus of modern artisans to upgrade and improve these buildings. Would you let a CSCS card holder loose on your cathedral refurbishment? No. Goes back to, and I having watched that video back, I do realise that when I was naming Italian artisans, I was actually naming Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I apologise for that. Just the first names that came in my head. Incidentally, our friend in Brazil, he's actually in Sao Paulo. Good morning. Apparently there are 800 master thatchers in the UK. Are there really? Are there really? I wonder how many thatched buildings there are then, because 800 sounds quite a lot in this day and age. Gary Muir says, I'm sure Jim Turner could shed some light on the subject of planning. I know he's waiting a long time for his planning to be completed. Yes, he has mentioned that in the past. We still don't have an answer on our mystery machine, and we do only have one more. Let me just take that away and make sure I can show you a bit more. I can. Let me go back. Still no answer. We've got one more film to come, and still no answer on our mystery machine. So let me show you that. Does that help? Is anybody looking at that linkage and going, aha, yes, I know exactly what that is. I'll be gobsmacked if you do, but you never know. Let's have a look. We've had lots of people getting close, but nobody's got the cigar as yet. Peter McKenna has gone for the Hanamag 35D. No. He's also gone for the 44D. Nope. He's gone for the 50E. Nope. Chris Ford has gone for the 44D. Nope. Peter McKenna has gone for the 33C. Nope. It is none of those things, but you're all very, very close. Apparently, according to Peter McKenna, who obviously has, he is either the world's greatest anorak or he has access to Google. There are apparently over 60,000 thatched properties in Britain. Roughly 75% of those are listed. So going back to what Mick Norton said, would you let Shane, Wayne and Wayne loose on your listed thatched property? Steve, it is not a Caterpillar 922. It is not a Caterpillar at all. I think I can tell you safely that it is a Hanamag. We just don't have the right model. So I'm going to take it away because we do have one final film to show you immediately after this. So we come to our final film of the day. If you were here yesterday, you probably remember that I already promised you. The film for today features the huge and hugely impressive Komatsu PC 950 excavator, the biggest excavator at Intermat just a few weeks ago. So let me grab the video from my hard drive and see precisely why the machine attracted the biggest crowds at the show. Bear with me for 2 ticks.
So it's a 97-ton excavator. It's a brand new machine to the Komatsu range. It's all new design, new engine, everything. So it's got a 405 kilowatt Komatsu engine, of course. So we use Komatsu hydraulics, Komatsu technology. It's capable of taking a 6.5 cubic meter bucket. Our design team, when we started to look at this machine to bring it in, we wanted high productivity, we wanted high strength, and we wanted high efficiency. And I'm pleased to say that our design team have delivered. Compared to its old predecessor, 60% more productivity and 48% more fuel efficiency. They've done a fantastic job. It's designed for quarry, but it's also, you can have it for mass earth excavation. That's why we offer 2 work equipment sizes and 2 bucket capacities. So if you take a longer work equipment, maximum bucket capacity for 1.8 ton material density, 4 cubic meters comfortably. All you've got to do is take a close-up look at the machine. You can see how heavy duty it is. We're using thick steel, it's robust, it's ready for a hard job, hard application. The guys have designed it right.
God. Let me try that again. I think I've won as far as the mystery machine is concerned, because nobody has actually said the right answer. I will also say that Vince Porteous, known Vince forever, did a fantastic job on the interview, as let me see, Steve Williams has just said, and I have to say, I saw that machine up close. I'm sure that Steve saw it as well. Fantastic machine. It really does look like it could conquer pretty much anything. Awesome bit of kit. Who is this? MTOW1. I wonder how it would handle an LRD. What is an LRD, I wonder? My apologies. Can that guy say a canny bag of Tudor? Next time I see Vince, I'll ask him. I will ask him. I've already claimed victory in... I want to do this one with Mick Norton first. Would you believe that any aspiring young thatcher in the UK is expected to complete a Level 2 MVQ diploma in roofing occupations, construction, with thatching as a specialism? Nothing is sacred. Nothing is sacred. MTOW1, I don't know their full name, but he's the question about the PC 950, he's talking about a high reach boom. Personally, I think with a bit of modification on the back end, a bit more, widen the tracks, lengthen the tracks, put a bit more counterweight on it, and then or put a big boom on it, I think that thing would be bloody awesome. I really do. Simon Saunders, if you're watching from Komatsu UK, that time we had a K100 system fitted on the front of the PC 950 and go out and knock down the world. Good morning to Joe Brown Construction Company. So, yes, my apologies for the lack of sound. We had more guesses on our Hanamag. It is not the 44 DT. Lots of reminders on Mike. Peter McKenna says, muted again, you nutter. It's either that or you get the heavy breathing. I don't know. Dan, Hanamag, since 1989, the company has been part of the Komatsu company. Yes, this is very true. And it is not a Hanamag B11 either. Let me show you exactly what it is. It is, in fact, a Hanamag 55D. Everybody went all around it. They had 33s and 44s and all manner of stuff. But it is the Hanamag 55D. Remember it well. Gary Muirhead has just said, let me take that away. He's just said, I'm sure that's something Marco Lorini could make. Yes, I'm sure. Marco, if you're watching, get yourself a PC 950 and turn it into a high reach, would you? I'd love to see that. I really would love to see that. Already comes fully armed, and given the fact that Komatsu UK have developed this the K100 quick change boom system, wouldn't be a hard job to do. Steve Williamson is still guessing about our mystery machine, but it's not. I think you're a model out. It is actually the 55D rather than the 44D. But I'm going to take the victory today because, well, it's been a while. So yes, I'll be back tomorrow with another mystery machine with which to befuddle you all. Dan was closest with 55C. He was, but it was a 55D. Sometimes I have to be pedantic just so that I can secure a win myself. Chris Ford says that was going to be Dan. My next guess. Was it? Was it really? This is a thing that we do now. Look at the comments, says Dan Cullen. You did not. Listen. There was a lot going on in the comments, but I did not see any mention of a 55D. I saw a 66C, I saw a 22C, I saw a 70E, lots and lots of things like that, but I did not see a single. There you are, was closest, 55C. Yes, you were close. But who remembers? Who remembers the person that won the silver medal at the Olympics? Victory is mine, and I shall bask in it for the rest of the day. That just about wraps up the main part of this morning's show. I'm going to roll the outro in just a second before leaping gazelle-like over into the chat to see what you're all saying today. Lots of things I'd like to talk about. I'd like to talk about Vistry. I'd like to talk about the fact that we don't have artisan builders any longer, and that we're not building buildings to last. Wouldn't mind touching on a few other bits and pieces as well, including Would you be happy with a future in which your entire work experience was on a card or possibly on a mobile device, and your machine or your access to your machine and the functions you had on that machine were controlled by Big Brother, effectively? Let's have a chat about that after the chat. I'm going to roll the outro in just a second. If you can't stick around, do please stay safe. Look after yourself, your family, your friends, and your colleagues. I hope to see you again very soon. But if you do have the time and the inclination, I will be back with the Craic immediately after this final word from our key show sponsor. Right, let me get some music fired up. Let me add that in there. Haven't had this one for a while. We're back to Monkey Trap. Just to be clear, that's the name of the song. It's not my occupation. I am not, I repeat, not trapping monkeys now or at any point in the future. That is Monkey Trap. Good morning, everyone. How on earth are you all doing this morning? I will go back to the very beginning of the chat. Apologies for my inability to control the microphone this morning. So, a couple of things. Vistry asking, pleading, begging for a 10% discount on their from their suppliers in October last year, and then lo and behold, they are now expecting an £800 million profit. Is that right? Is it proper? Is it appropriate? I'd love to get your thoughts. I mentioned the fact that I'd been listening to this podcast in which a woman was basically effectively fired. She left her place of employment, and somebody basically turned off or revoked her security pass, so she couldn't get back in. We now have the ability to have keyless access to machines. How would you feel about having either a bit of plastic or a piece of metal or something like that, or possibly your mobile device? So you get in the machine and the machine recognizes you and allows you to use only the functions for which you are properly and appropriately trained. How would you feel about that? And how would you feel about possibly, gamification, as we've called it in the past? How would you feel about the possibility of earning additional functionality, like you do? Somebody mentioned PlayStation games. I think it was Gary Muirhead. How would you feel about earning additional functions by doing things properly or excessively? If you could reduce your fuel consumption by 5% week on week, and that frees up to a few more functions for you or something like that. How would you feel about that? We'll come to all of that in just a moment. Just had a couple of messages here that are nothing, as far as I can see, nothing to do. No, they are nothing whatsoever to do with today's show, so I'm going to crack straight on. I'm going to rattle through the very early bits. 10 a.m. Dan Cullen, 10 a.m. right on the nose. I was actually talking to my doctor at the time. Getting a tiny telling off, just a tiny one, not a big one, but things need to adjust. So make the most of this figure because it's going to be going. Let's have a look. Top of the morning says Dan Cullen. Gary Muirhead is in the house as well. Good morning, everyone. Yeah, a short week for some of us. Yes, it's 3-day week. I wouldn't mind going to that full time. If anybody can make that happen, I wouldn't mind that at all. Mark Whiting, Jim Turner, Peter McKenna, all in the house. And very welcome they are too. Gary Muirhead says, sounds like you've given the CITB food for thought on how they can make more money out of us. They don't need my help. I honestly believe that within the CITB, within NOCN, CEPCS, CSCS, the NDTG, I think there is a little room, a little skunk works, a little darkened room where people sit around very quietly in hushed tones. How can we screw the industry a bit more? I think that happens. Can you hear that when I do that, by the way? I do it occasionally, and it's never occurred to me whether you could actually hear when I'm whispering. Peter McKenna says, that's business. We're talking about Vistry. Passing around the begging bowl to get a 10% discount from their supply chain and then reporting literally 8 months later an £800 million profit. It is business. It is, I think, where am I going with this? Economically, I think it makes sense. Morally, I think they are bankrupt. That's my feeling on it. Love to get your thoughts on it. They're just flexing their buying power because they can. And where does that leave the industry? Given the multi-tiered way that this industry works, if Vistry go to a subcontractor, maybe it's a fit out company or something like that, but they go to one of their subcontractors and say, we need 10% off. Chances are that 10% off for Vistry will then be reflected down the food chain. So there will be a guy who possibly lays the turf outside a new Vistry house on a development of 30 houses, who is now being screwed, not just in the fact that he's being paid less than he really needs to make a living, but he's also going to be paid late as well. That's the knock-on effect. And where does that lead? That race to the bottom, where does that lead? Do we end up with a situation where, having demanded and begged for discounts, how do you then go about putting your prices up? Or do you just not work for Vistry anymore? And let's be honest, Vistry is not alone in this. This is just the news here. I'm sure that same flexing of buying power is done throughout the industry. Is it right? Is it moral? Love to hear from you. Chris Ford on good morning. Ken Hatcher is here as well. Andy Darvell as well. Steve Williamson arrived a little bit later. 8 minutes past 10. Probably didn't want to listen to my preamble. I don't blame him for that. Let's have a look. So, Gary Muirhead's question of the day today was, if you could instantly master a new skill, what skill would you choose? As I say, mine would be the ability to speak Italian. I'd love to pick up the phone, call Marco Lorini or Stefano Panzeri or Roberto Panzeri and say, watch your cocker, it's me, but do it in Italian. That would be fantastic. Love to be able to do that. And failing that, be able to play guitar. I'm not looking to be Jeff Beck or Eric Clapton or Slash or Angus Young or any of those people. Just the ability to do a bit of a strummage. Just pick up a guitar and do a bit of strummage. I'd be content with that. All beyond me, I'm afraid. Let's have a look. Who do we have here? Chris Ford. If we were able to cut their wages by 10%, do you think they'd like it? Methinks we're being butt fucked again. Yeah, I agree. And having seen this in the news, because the business about Vistry is actually on Construction Inquirer this morning. If you are one of their subcontractors, potentially you may even be watching. If you are one of their subcontractors and you have been butt fucked to the tune of 10% off your bottom line, how are you feeling this morning? Happy with that? Are you dead keen to go and work with Vistry again? Or do you feel like you've been soundly shafted? Love to get your thoughts. Hillhead, we've already decided. I'm going to be there on the Tuesday and the Wednesday. A bit like that on the Thursday, but I'm very much doubt that I'll be there on the Thursday. Ken Hatcher, however, will be. Gary Muirhead will not be there at all. However, it looks like we'll be meeting. I'm going to be standing there like Del Boy with a big bunch of flowers waiting for you to arrive. What skill would you like to acquire? Jim Turner says predicting the lottery numbers. Yeah, that wouldn't be a bad one. That would be a good one. Chris Ford, you and I are on the same page. Question today: to be able to play guitar without everyone running out of the room. Yeah, there is a weird thing, isn't there? When I was younger, my current wife. I say current wife. There had only been the one, but my current wife was just my girlfriend at the time. And we had friends called Joyce and Ralph. Joyce sadly passed away not so long ago, 3 or 4 months ago, and she was no longer with Ralph. But Ralph was a weird guy. He had a one note, one exclamation laugh. You could tell him the best joke you'd ever heard, and Ralph's reaction would be "ha." That was it. There was no follow up. That was just a ha. But he also played guitar, not overly well, but he played guitar. But whenever you went round their house, he would find some excuse to break out the guitar. And I don't know about you, but being sat opposite somebody playing guitar, it's kind of uncomfortable, isn't it? You know, if you had people round for dinner and you suddenly burst into song, you'd kind of expect them to leave, wouldn't you? Or is that just me? Maybe I'm just Well, maybe. I am socially inept. Peter McKenna. Reading women like a book, that's a skill that most of us would like, I think. Andy Darvell says, if I had a magic wand, I'd love to be able to speak all of the major languages on Earth. Would make traveling the world wonderful. Wouldn't that be fantastic? Wouldn't it be, I mean, you know, I know we're talking magic wands here, but wouldn't it be fantastic if you could get yourself a little, like, SD card, pop it in your head and just be, you know, I'm going on holiday to Torremolinos for a fortnight. I'm now fluent in Spanish. Wouldn't that be awesome? Frankly, most of Torremolinos speaks better English than I do, so that's probably a bad example. But you know what I'm saying. Lots of chat about the axis of evil. That wasn't particularly evil. The Nox tilt rotator from, which is called the Axis, from AMI Attachments. I think, by and large, with the exception of Gary Muirhead with his traditional brand loyalty, I think everybody pretty much agreed that was a pretty hot machine. I did ask, and I don't know if he actually came back. I did ask Steve Williamson. He did actually get hands-on. SVAB, who developed I'm having a brain fart. The joysticks. He had a play with a new set of joysticks over in Intermat. How were they? I'd love to hear from you. But that did very much spark a conversation about things like arthritis and stuff. Do wonder if young operators are being advised of the benefits of wrist supports and stuff. I realise a lot of machines have them now, but I think some people... I used to use a wrist support with my computer mouse. Not the most comfortable, but now I'm knocking on the door of 60 years old. I mean, my wrists are absolutely fine. Knocking on the door of 60 years old, I do wonder if maybe I might live to regret that. We shall see. Steve Williamson, never diss a tilt rotator brand. Is there not a tilt rotator brand that you look at and go, because you never know. I operate steel wrist and there is no difference on operating the Nox, he says. If you're any, that didn't come up. If you're any good with a PlayStation controller, I am not. You'd be amazing on this. Yes, I don't have the mental or the physical dexterity for any kind of computer games. I was quite happy playing the old Nintendo Olympics, where the only skill required was be able to press a button very, very quickly. Not so much anymore. Steve says, never have an issue with wrist or fingers, but just back pain, sitting so long, sore legs from sitting, need to stretch more, just so busy. I don't know. I'm going to ask the question. I've got an Apple Watch, and to prove it, it's here. It's on charge at the moment, but I've got an Apple Watch. And that does remind me to stand up because, you know, although I'm not pushing levers and what have you, I am sat on my fat ass for large parts of the day. And I have to admit, I wouldn't say it's pain, but I kind of find myself standing up and grunting and groaning. The iPhone's ability to remind you, stand up, go for a walk, do something else. It's a good thing. If you've got one, I would suggest you use it. Gary Muirhead also speaking about tilt rotators. I know I go home a lot less stressed or strained. Tilt rotator makes my job easier and more enjoyable. Not only did I screw up on the mic once today, I did it twice. That takes a real expert, doesn't it? Going back, Gary Muirhead also says this: the very early tilt rotator control systems were a nightmare because they were small micro switch touch buttons that were cable tied to the joystick and was very uncomfortable. These days, not a problem. That's the kind of progress I like to see. Peter says, not seen Wolfwelder around for a while. As I say, bearing in mind we are 5 hours ahead of him, so if I start at 10, it's 5 o'clock where he is. Not ideal, but as I said, you know, when we changed our clocks a little while ago, I think we were closer together, but I think that only lasts for a week or two, and then the Americans changed theirs, and we're out of sync again. No sponsorship from Sandvik, I'm afraid. I wouldn't mind. I wouldn't turn them down. Big fan of Sandvik, I've got to be honest. So if they would like to send me some money my way, I'll continue to say nice things about them. If they don't send any money my way, I'll continue to say nice things about them, because that's how journalism works, I guess. Jim Turner says you will retire through ill health and start doing something you're capable of, or start with a firm that doesn't use a tilt rotator. That was my response. What if you develop arthritis while you're working with a tilt rotator? There's his answer. Yeah, it's a really strange thing, because as you probably saw, there weren't many people around when I filmed that yesterday, and there certainly weren't many people when I filmed the last one. But I find more comfortable walking around a Plantworks or a Hillhead or an Intermat or a Balmer or a Conexpo with a selfie stick, chatting away to myself. Loads and loads, hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands of people, not a problem. But doing it in your own road with just one or two people does feel weird. Looks weird. Let's be absolutely honest. It is weird. It is a strange way to earn a living, but that's what you do. Mick Norton says, you mentioned the Italian cathedral was at one time partially demolished. Were the NFDC involved? NFDC go back about 83 years. I think this was about 500 years ago, so no. No, they weren't. Gary Muirhead, all I'm hearing these days is a housing crisis, a shortage of affordable homes. All seems to come down to the planning office taking so long to pass the planning process. There is a gap there, isn't there? On the one hand, you have government and local government saying we need more homes, and on the other hand, you have local authorities who want to dot every I and cross every T before they grant permission for anything. And unfortunately, in all the time I've been reporting on this, which is 35 plus years, that has never changed. There has been no step forward as well. And then it is, as I've already said, it is compounded by the fact that a lot of the house builders buy up great swathes of land and then sit on it until the price is right to actually build some houses on it, at which point they make everybody jump through hoops, like Vistry, 10% discount, and build it. That house that takes a week to build, we'd like it done in half an hour, if at all possible. That's the way it works. None of today's buildings will be standing in 100 years. I'm inclined to agree with that. And I realise that buildings come in different flavours. Things like cathedrals and churches, you would expect them to have a longer life, purely because they are, I guess, iconic. Is iconic the word? I'm not sure, but that they are there to signify something, aren't they? Churches, cathedrals and that kind of thing. Whereas I don't believe a lot of the buildings that we're building today are necessarily that way inclined. And again, having seen the inside of buildings that have been demolished or are being demolished, when you see the way that some of them have been put together in the 60s, 70s, 80s, I don't honestly believe that's changed much in the last 30 odd years. So these buildings that everyone is dead keen to refurb and refit, are they actually fit for refitting? That's the question. And there is an answer. Dan Cullen says, I know companies having to re-strengthen a building structure that Henry built because the floors are sagging. Yeah. And how long ago was that built, I wonder? Interesting point. There is no reason why modern structures should survive for centuries. The only snag is we do not have the nucleus of modern artisans to upgrade and improve these buildings. Would you let a CSCS card holder loose on your cathedral refurbishment? No, I wouldn't. And would you despite all my reservations about industry training and the way that the card companies are basically leeching off the industry, within construction and within civil engineering and within demolition and within quarrying, we have a well-established, I'm not entirely satisfied with it, but we do have a well-established competence card scheme. So we have a training system that requires you to do this, and if you do this, you get this card. And then when you've done that card, you move up and you do this to get that card, and so on down the line. Does the refurb and retrofit have that level of sophistication with its training? My understanding is it probably doesn't. I'm not saying it's a new industry, it certainly isn't, but I think the focus switching so much to refurb and refit is going to put a strain on their labour capabilities, and if they haven't got the right people that are sufficiently trained, what are we heading for? We already have lots of accidents in house refurbishments and building refurbishments. Are we going to see a spike because we are now so focused on retrofit and refurbishment? Interesting times indeed. Mick Norton, would you believe, Mick, you know by now I will believe anything because, frankly, I know that the industry is crazy. Would you believe that any aspiring young thatcher in the UK is expected to complete a level 2 NVQ diploma in roofing occupations, construction, with thatching as a specialism? So, let's be absolutely honest here. We're talking about an industry or a niche within an industry sector that has existed for hundreds, quite possibly thousands of years. I would imagine back in the day it was a skill that was passed down through generations. Father taught son, son taught grandson, and so on down the line. And now we have an NVQ for it. And yes, I will happily be shot down because it does require working at height and all the things. I fully understand all of that. But really, is there, for example, is there an NVQ for brass rubbing? I realise that's not a job, but Jesus Christ, it really is like, as I said, it is like there is a skunk works within the training organisations that just sit there and rub their hands together. I've just thought of another way we can milk the industry. I'm going to rattle through to the very end of the chat because does Ruth ever give you a scalp? I don't know what a scalp is. I'm thinking it's a slap around the back of the head after a live show with some of the things you say. Yeah. Yeah, she does. Quite regularly. and sometimes I know it's coming. Going back to our question of the day. No, let me see. I've missed quite a bit here. Chris Ford. 2 hours on the power washing screen off. Never fails to amaze me how much dust sticks to them. As soon as I finished, it's now started to rain. That's the way that it works. Not keen, says Steve Williamson. In an ideal world, that would work, but not in real life, wouldn't work. Imagine saying, I can't do that. The machine won't let me when things need to get done. That was my suggestion, that you could have a card or a device that allows you certain functionality. I just remember that if you go on a diet, stop drinking, stop smoking and having sex, you don't live any longer. It just seems like it. That's the decision that's facing me right now, actually. JCB built and supplied to Russia after months of saying exports had stopped. Did they? Again, it goes back to economy, morality. Economically, can you blame them? Morally? Yeah, maybe. Question of the day, Steve Williamson says, to speak German, French, Swedish, Italian, Spanish, be handy at the shows. Yeah, wouldn't it? I mean, particularly one of the mainland European shows where you're, like a Balmer or an Intermat, something like that, where you are, you're speaking to a Brit one day, you're speaking to a German the next, then a Frenchman, an Italian, a Spaniard, would be fantastic. Crazy Edits, Peter McKenna says, Saudi Arabia now holds the record for the world's longest stretch of straight road that goes on for miles without a single bend. Because they've got endless desert. The 149-mile curveless stretch, part of the country's Highway 10, rips through the vast Rab Al Khali Desert, the largest sand desert in the world. Is that the largest sand desert in the world? Did not know that. Gary Muirhead. Now, I can imagine this. Gary Muirhead. Tails flapping behind him, sat down at a grand piano, doing his very best, Richard Clayderman. I can see that. There we are. Love the new joysticks from SVAB. Got a set coming his way soon. Good to hear. And we mentioned him earlier, like the devil, like Beetlejuice, or like the Candyman. You say his name enough, and up he pops. Our friend Garrett Wolfelder, just joining. There you are. Peter McKenna saying, morning, Wolfie. We're just saying we haven't seen you lately. And there he is. Thousands of UK companies have exploited their corporate power to increase profit margins since the pandemic, redistributing wealth from employees to employers and shareholders. Yeah, and that was basically the gist of the whole Vistry thing. Very, 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 very upfront about the fact that, you know, we've asked for a 10% discount, but look how happy our shareholders are with our huge profits. I'd love to turn a day to the supervisor. I'm away a walk. Machine sitting and men waiting won't go down well. Yeah, they're very true indeed. Good Lord. Steve says, there is a limit to what you can say. What if I have this or that? How can I operate it? Well, you don't. I can't be a pilot because my eyesight isn't amazing. Should I sue and moan? No. It's just things in life that we can't do due to health or other issues that stop you. There are things to help, that there is a limit for, in my opinion. We can't get everything to suit every type of human being. Here. The general consensus, according to Mick, is on the Isle of Dogs, houses built 30 to 40 years ago have a life of span of 50 to 60 years and will need a lot of work done to make them okay to habit for a further 40 years. Then you have a problem of the workforce able to do this work. Yeah, there you are. I mean, where I live, there's a lot of houses around here that were built back in the 30s. A lot of them are all in pretty good nick. Are we building houses of that quality now? I don't believe we are. I do like the idea of modular building and that kind of thing, but is that really long lasting? Is that permanent or even semi-permanent? I don't believe it is. You have as much luck as me lately, Dan. I think my despair is rubbing off on you. And now, bearing in mind what our friend Wolf Welder actually does for a living, if I could master a skill, it would be welding. Well, hey, listen, I maybe I should have added that. Bearing in mind the issues that I've had today with the microphone, maybe the skill that I should probably focus on mastering is live streaming, because quite clearly I'm not that good at it. Steve Williamson says there's not enough traditional build houses no more. All kits, yeah, all kits. And are those kits as resilient as the buildings of old? Obviously, Steve is up in Scotland. Gary Muirhead is up in Scotland. You see some of those. I mean, and I'm not suggesting either of you live in them, but some of the old tenement buildings, not a particularly nice place to live, but man alive, they were built to last. They really were built to last. And you look at some of the, as I say, the houses around where I am, built in the 1930s to house lots and lots of people, and they were built to last. You know, there's a lot of stone in them, a lot of concrete in them. They really were built to last. The last house that I bought off plan, it was like IKEA furniture. It was nice enough inside. Would I expect it to last 100 years? I certainly would not. Mark, you're good enough for us, at least with your bungling with the mic. We've all had a laugh about it. I do it deliberately. Purely to keep you all entertained. I know exactly what I'm doing. On that note, on that lie, I'm going to call it a day, because I do need to take my wife elsewhere. She's going to see my daughter for the day. So I'm going to love you all and leave you. My house is 10 years old-ish, and it makes some creaks and groans. Are you sure that's the house and not your back and your knees? Steve, even if it's not, your day will come, my friend. Your day will come. Jim Turner says modular building can be long-lasting, galvanized steel clad with something sacrificial and ventilated properly. It'll last for donkey's years. Are people building to last for donkey's years? That is the question. Peter McKenna says, have a good day, folks. Enjoy. I fully intend to. Everybody, go about to your business. I'll be back here again. Where are we? It's Thursday today, isn't it? I'll be back here for the final show of the week tomorrow with more of whatever the hell this has been. Until then, everybody, have a fantastic day. Thank you for joining us. I'll see you all very soon. Take care.